You've probably never noticed it. You're finding your seat, stuffing your bag in the overhead bin, maybe texting someone before the flight takes off, and right at that moment, the flight attendants quietly sit down, back straight, feet flat on the floor, and both hands tucked firmly under their thighs. It happens on every airline, every flight, all over the world. Is it a comfort thing, a nervous habit, or is there something much more deliberate going on? Welcome to Unknown Behind Known Things, where we uncover the hidden logic behind the things you see every day, but never think to question. And today, that one small gesture is our starting point, because it's the product of decades of aviation disasters, hard science, and human psychology. Once you understand why they do it, you'll never board a plane the same way again. Here's something most passengers don't realize. Takeoff and landing together account for only about 6% of a flight's total time in the air. But they're responsible for roughly 80% of all aviation accidents. That's according to Boeing's own statistical summary of commercial jet accidents, data collected across decades of global aviation. The window between engine throttle up and the moment the plane clears 1,000 feet is so critical that pilots call it the impossibility zone. If something goes wrong there, options are extremely limited. In those few minutes, the cabin crew can't move. They can't check on passengers. They can't do anything except be ready. And readiness in aviation is a very specific, very physical thing. The story goes back further than most people think. In the 1920s and 30s, the first commercial air hostesses, as they were called then, were hired almost entirely for passenger comfort. Many were trained nurses. Their job was to calm nervous flyers, serve food, and hand out cotton balls for passengers to plug their ears against the engine noise. Safety wasn't really part of the brief. That changed violently in the mid-20th century. A series of high-profile crashes in the 1950s and 60s, including the 1960 New York mid-air collision over Staten Island that killed 134 people, forced regulators to confront an uncomfortable truth. Surviving a crash wasn't just about the aircraft. It was about what happened inside the cabin in the seconds after impact. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration began mandating comprehensive safety training for cabin crew. By the 1970s, flight attendants were no longer hospitality workers who happened to work on planes. They were certified safety professionals, the last line of defense between a survivable accident and a mass casualty event. Out of that era came something called crew resource management, a systematic approach to how humans behave under extreme stress. And researchers began asking a precise question: what position should a human body be in to survive sudden, violent deceleration? Here's what the science showed. During an aborted takeoff, where a pilot must brake hard on the runway, a 160-pound person experiences forces equivalent to several times their body weight pressing forward. Loose limbs move independently of the torso, and that difference in motion is where fractures happen. A 1989 study by the Civil Aeromedical Institute found that unsecured arms and hands were among the most commonly injured body parts in survivable aviation accidents, not because of the crash itself, but because of flailing. Arms thrown forward hit seat backs, armrests, and overhead panels with enough force to cause dislocations, compound fractures, and, in some cases, knock crew members unconscious. Unconscious crew members cannot open emergency exits. They cannot direct evacuations. They cannot help anyone. So the solution was almost counterintuitively simple. Sit on your hands. Hands tucked under thighs, stay with the body. They can't fly forward. They can't impact hard surfaces. And the moment the aircraft comes to a stop, they're exactly where they need to be, ready to unbuckle, stand up, and go to work. But here's the part that most people never hear about. and it might be the most interesting part of all. While flight attendants are sitting in that position, they're not just waiting, they're running what aviation professionals call a silent review, a mental rehearsal of every emergency procedure specific to their position on that aircraft. Where are the emergency exits they're responsible for? What are the commands they'll shout if the doors need to be open? Where is the nearest fire extinguisher? If the plane hits water instead of land, what changes? This isn't optional or informal. On most major carriers, it's a trained, required practice, reinforced in annual recertification programs. Lufthansa, Delta, Singapore Airlines, and others explicitly train crew to use the takeoff period for this mental walkthrough. Research and cognitive performance backs this up. Studies on surgeons, soldiers, and first responders consistently show that mental rehearsal immediately before a high-stakes event improves both speed and accuracy of response when something actually goes wrong. The brain primes specific neural pathways. Reaction time shortens. In aviation, where the first 90 seconds after an accident are often the difference between life and death, that rehearsal isn't a ritual, it's a survival tool. You might wonder, if this position is so effective, why aren't passengers told to do it too? The answer is role clarity. In an emergency, a passenger's primary job is to protect themselves and follow instructions. They need their hands free to adopt the brace position, hold children, grab a seatbelt, or brace against the seat in front. Flight attendants have a different job. Their survival is instrumentally important, not just for themselves, but for everyone else on board. One incapacitated crew member per exit can reduce evacuation efficiency dramatically. The FAA requires that a full aircraft evacuation be completable in 90 seconds, a standard tested with real volunteers in the dark, in simulated smoke. Every crew member who goes down makes that window harder to hit. So the hand position isn't really about self-preservation. It's about staying functional for everyone else. The next time you're on a plane and you notice that moment, when the engines spool up, the attendants go quiet, and their hands disappear beneath them, you'll know what's really happening. They're not nervous, they're not resting, they're locked in, running through scenarios you hope never happen, in a posture designed by researchers who studied what human bodies do when planes go wrong. It's one of the quietest, most disciplined acts in modern travel, hiding in plain sight every single flight. That's the kind of hidden story we uncover on Unknown Behind Known Things. If this one surprised you, hit subscribe. We go deep on the hidden systems behind everyday things every week. And drop a comment. What's something you've seen but never understood? It might be our next video.